There is an invisible field that surrounds everything we see, everything we touch, and everything we are. It is the boundary between truth and illusion, between what is real and what has been constructed for us to believe. The ancients called it the veil. Some described it as an energy membrane that separates the physical from the spiritual, the known from the infinite. Others saw it as a shroud placed over the eyes of humanity to keep us from perceiving the full spectrum of reality. Whatever name we give it, the veil is not just a metaphor. It is a living field, dynamic, intelligent, and responsive to the consciousness that observes it. Long before modern civilization began, ancient mystics and seers spoke of a moment when humanity fell into forgetfulness, a time when the world of light and the world of matter drifted apart. In that moment, the veil was born. It was said to protect us from truths we were not yet ready to comprehend, shielding the fragile human mind from the overwhelming vastness of the cosmos. But as millennia passed, that same shield became a prison. The field that once protected became the barrier that confined, trapping the soul in a loop of limited perception. To truly understand the veil, we must first remember that reality is layered. What we see with our physical eyes is only a fraction of what exists. Beneath the visible spectrum lies the world of energy, frequency, and vibration, the true fabric of existence. The veil is the distortion between those layers, like fog over a mirror. It blurs the reflection of truth, convincing us that what we see is all there is. Yet deep down, something within every human being feels the tension between what appears to be and what truly is. That quiet ache, the sense that something greater is just beyond reach, is the soul's memory of the worlds beyond the veil. Many ancient civilizations understood this field intuitively. The Egyptians spoke of the Duat, a hidden realm that mirrored the earth but was invisible to ordinary sight. The Hindus called it Maya, the grand illusion that cloaks the divine reality. The Gnostics described it as the archonic veil, a barrier woven by lesser gods to keep humanity asleep. Across continents and ages, the same idea echoed through every culture, that an unseen fabric separates humanity from divine awareness. But the ancients did not fear this boundary, they sought to cross it. Their temples, rituals, and symbols were not merely acts of worship. They were technologies of consciousness designed to pierce the veil. Through vibration, geometry, and sacred sound, they learned to align their energy fields with the higher frequencies of creation, momentarily parting the shroud and glimpsing the infinite. These were not metaphors for them. They were lived experiences of expanded perception, gateways into the unseen. Some say the veil first condensed when the human heart fell out of harmony with the cosmos, when fear, separation, and material attachment began to dominate collective consciousness. The light of divine connection dimmed. The field thickened. Humanity forgot its origin, its purpose, its power. Instead of seeing the world as a living reflection of the divine, we began to see it as an object to control, measure, and own. This forgetting, this great amnesia, became the foundation of human suffering. The veil, once translucent, became dense. It wrapped around the human aura, layered through emotion, thought, and belief, creating a personal micro-veil within each being. Every thought steeped in fear, every wound left unhealed, every belief in limitation strengthens the veil. It is not an external wall built by gods or rulers. It is woven from the collective vibration of human consciousness. Each time we deny our own light, We contribute another thread to the tapestry that conceals it, and yet the same truth reveals the key to dissolving it. For if the veil is maintained by human frequency, it can also be lifted by human awakening. Mystics throughout history have given us the tools to do so. Meditation, breathwork, chanting, prayer, all are methods of tuning the human field back into resonance with truth. When the mind becomes still and the heart opens, the fog begins to thin. Subtle impressions emerge, colors unseen by normal eyes, sensations of expansion, moments of pure knowing. These are not hallucinations, but glimpses through the thinning fabric of reality. The more one aligns with love, gratitude, and presence, the more transparent the veil becomes. Modern science, in its own way, has begun to circle this ancient understanding. Quantum physicists speak of energy fields, wave functions, and observer effects, principles that mirror what mystics have always known. Our observation does not merely witness reality, it shapes it. The veil, then, can be seen as the energetic interference pattern that forms when limited perception collapses infinite potential into finite experience. It is the interface between the eternal and the temporary, a boundary created by consciousness itself so that it can play the game of being human. Yet there are forces, both physical and metaphysical, that benefit from keeping the veil intact. In spiritual traditions, they are often called the archons, the keepers of the veil, or the lords of illusion. These are not monsters in the shadows, but archetypal energies that feed on ignorance, fear, and division. As long as humanity remains trapped in fragmented perception, these energies thrive. They manifest as systems of control, as dogmas that promise truth while concealing it, as distractions that keep the mind chasing shadows instead of light. To awaken is to starve them, and that is why true awakening has always been the greatest threat to the powers that govern illusion. But the veil is not merely imposed upon us, it is also chosen. On a soul level, we agreed to forget so that we could remember anew. We descended into density to rediscover our light by contrast. The veil provides the friction necessary for growth. Without darkness, light cannot be known. The tragedy is not that we fell into illusion, but that we began to mistake illusion for truth and stopped seeking the way out. The moment we begin to question, to look beyond appearances, the first threads of the veil begin to loosen. Imagine the veil as a vast energetic web surrounding Earth, a shimmering lattice of electromagnetic vibration tuned to the collective frequency of humanity. It filters the light of higher dimensions, slowing it down so that it can take form in the physical world. This filtering allows matter to exist, but also conceals the higher spectrum from ordinary awareness. When enough individuals raise their vibration, the lattice begins to vibrate differently, creating openings, portals, through which higher consciousness can enter the physical plane. This is why periods of great awakening often coincide with upheaval and change. The structure of the veil itself begins to reorganize. Throughout history, prophets, shamans, and mystics have pierced this field. They returned with visions of radiant beings, messages of unity, and glimpses of infinite love. Some described seeing the world as made of light, every atom shimmering with divine intelligence. Others spoke of entering realms where time dissolves, where thought instantly manifests, where separation ceases to exist. These experiences are not fantasies. They are the natural perception of consciousness freed from distortion. The veil hides these realms not because they are distant, but because they occupy frequencies that our conditioned awareness cannot yet sustain. The universe is not up there or out there. It is right here, layered in vibration. When our awareness shifts, dimensions unfold like petals of a flower, revealing that heaven was never elsewhere. It was always here, waiting to be seen. Every spiritual awakening, every profound moment of love or clarity is a crack in the veil. When you feel awe gazing at the stars, when music moves you to tears, when silence fills you with peace, these are not emotions. They are moments when your vibration resonates with truth, allowing the light beyond the veil to touch you. These glimpses remind you that you are not separate from the infinite. You are a fragment of it, remembering itself. And yet, for most of humanity, the veil remains thick. The systems we have built, our media, education, and even religion, often reinforce separation rather than dissolve it. We are taught to see through filters, nationality, ideology, appearance, status. Each label adds another layer to the fog. But the soul yearns for clarity. That yearning is why so many are now awakening, because the frequency of Earth itself is rising, and the veil can no longer hold the same density it once did. Many ancient prophecies spoke of this time, an era when the veil would thin, when humanity would awaken from its long dream. The Mayans called it the end of the dark cycle. The Hopi spoke of the return to the fifth world. The mystics of the East called it the dawn of the Satya Yuga, the age of truth. Though interpreted differently, each prophecy pointed to the same phenomenon, a collective shift of perception, a planetary remembering. And it is happening now. If you close your eyes and listen, you can feel it. That subtle hum beneath the chaos of the world. It is the sound of the old reality unraveling. Every challenge, every collapse of a system is not destruction, but revelation. The veil is thinning, and the truth long hidden is emerging into the light of awareness. The energy of Earth is aligning once again with the higher planes, and humanity stands on the threshold of remembering who we truly are. But this awakening is not automatic. It requires courage. The courage to look beyond the narratives we have inherited, to question what we are told, to face the shadows within ourselves. For the veil is not only around us, it is within us. It is every belief that says I am not enough, every fear that says I cannot, every doubt that says I am alone. To lift the veil is to face the parts of ourselves that prefer illusion over truth. And that is why awakening, though beautiful, can also be painful. The light reveals everything. When the light of truth touches the unhealed parts of the psyche, resistance arises. The ego fears dissolution, for it was born within the veil. It thrives on separation. As the light grows, the ego fights to maintain control, projecting confusion, anger, and fear. This is why so many feel turmoil during awakening. It is not a sign of failure. It is the process of purification. The old frequencies must surface and release before the higher frequencies can stabilize. Those who persist through the storm find a new clarity waiting on the other side, a sense of peace that is not dependent on circumstance, a knowing that all is connected. When this inner alignment occurs, the personal veil dissolves and the world transforms accordingly. What once appeared random begins to reveal intricate purpose. Synchronicities multiply. Guidance flows effortlessly. Life itself becomes a dialogue with the divine. Now that we understand how the veil operates within the human psyche and across collective consciousness, we can begin to explore how to consciously work with it, to part it, to see beyond it, to live from the truth that has always been waiting beyond the fog. The ancients described this field in ways that mirrored one another across continents. The Egyptian Ka, the Hindu Maya, the Gnostic Archonic realm, and even the Christian worldly illusion, each echoing the same truth, that there exists a subtle distortion between what is real and what is perceived. It is the filter through which the infinite appears fragmented. For most of humanity, this veil is invisible because it aligns perfectly with the senses we rely upon. The eyes see light but not the frequency beyond it. The ears hear sound but not the silence that gives rise to it. The mind, conditioned by survival and fear, translates this limited data into a version of reality that feels solid, predictable, and safe. But beneath this perceptual surface, something greater breathes, a field of consciousness too vast to be contained by human understanding. Many mystical traditions tell of a primordial time when the veil did not exist, when beings lived in direct communion with Source. In this ancient epoch, thought and manifestation were one. The boundary between spirit and matter had not yet crystallized, but as creation expanded and consciousness sought to experience itself through form, polarity emerged: light and shadow, sound and silence, knowing and forgetting. From this duality, the veil was woven. It was not a punishment, nor a fall from grace. It was a necessary act of creation, a divine boundary that allowed souls to explore separation and rediscover unity through their own awakening. The veil became the stage for evolution, the invisible curtain drawn between the actor and the divine playwright. To cross it is to awaken. To live beneath it is to dream. Yet something shifted as millennia passed. Humanity, once aware of the veil's purpose, began to identify entirely with the illusion. The memory of higher worlds faded. The senses, once tools of exploration, became prisons of perception. And so, civilizations rose and fell within this holographic realm, each forgetting that the shadows on the cave wall were not the light itself. But there were always those who remembered. In Egypt, the high initiates of the mystery schools learned to pierce the veil through sacred geometry and the language of vibration. They understood that every symbol, from the eye of Horus to the Ankh, was not mere art, but a frequency map, a code that resonated with higher planes of reality. Through meditation, breath, and ritual alignment with cosmic law, they trained their consciousness to pass through the thin membrane between dimensions, touching the eternal mind of Ra. In India, the rishis spoke of Maya, the great illusion that masks Brahman, the absolute reality. They taught that liberation, or moksha, comes when one sees through the veil of duality and perceives the oneness that has always been. Similarly, the Buddhists referred to it as samsara, the endless cycle of birth and death sustained by ignorance. To awaken is to break through the fog and witness the truth of emptiness, a clarity so vast that even the concept of veil dissolves. The Gnostics, too, warned of unseen forces maintaining the veil. The archons, entities that feed upon human ignorance, keeping the soul trapped in the lower heavens. But they also spoke of the luminous spark within each being, a fragment of divine light powerful enough to shatter the illusion. This inner light, they said, is the remembrance of God itself, the torch carried through the darkness. When one studies these teachings together, a pattern emerges. Whether called Maya, the Matrix, or the Shadow Realm, the message remains. The world you see is a construct, not false, but incomplete, like the reflection of the moon upon water. The veil refracts truth into fragments, and humanity mistakes the fragments for the whole. In modern times, this concept has been rediscovered through quantum physics and consciousness research. Scientists now suggest that the physical world may indeed be a holographic projection, an encoded information field where every particle contains the blueprint of the entire universe. The observer, they say, does not passively watch reality unfold, but actively co-creates it through attention and intention. In other words, your consciousness is not inside the universe. The universe is inside your consciousness. The veil, then, is the filter of interpretation. It bends infinite potential into the narrow spectrum of human experience, and yet, when one learns to still the mind and withdraw attention from the noise, the filter begins to thin. Subtle synchronicities appear. Time loosens. The edges between self and world blur. What you once called coincidence becomes communication. What you called emptiness reveals presence. Across history, initiates have developed methods to part the veil. Through sacred breath work, lucid dreaming, fasting, sound resonance, and geometrical visualization. These are not mere spiritual exercises. They are technologies of perception. Each practice harmonizes the energy field, raising its frequency until the dense fabric of illusion becomes transparent. The ancient Mayans called this process lifting the smoke of the mirror. The Tibetans referred to it as the rainbow body state. The Egyptians spoke of becoming light. In essence, all pointed to the same awakening, the remembrance of your true, multidimensional nature. Yet the veil is not simply a metaphysical structure. It is also psychological. Every belief, trauma, and unresolved emotion reinforces it. The human ego, the survival-based self, clings to separation because it fears dissolution. To cross the veil means to die before dying, to let go of every false identity, every mask. This is why few attempt it, and fewer still succeed. For those who do, the experience is indescribable. They report seeing reality as a luminous web, a boundless tapestry of light and intelligence interwoven with love. They feel time collapse into a single eternal moment. Fear vanishes. The heart expands. The self dissolves into the whole, and for a breathless instant, the infinite looks upon itself through human eyes. And yet, most return, because the purpose is not to escape the veil forever, but to walk through it consciously, to live within the dream, knowing it is a dream. This is the essence of mastery, to hold awareness of the infinite while still tending the finite, to see the divine in all forms without losing the human heart. It is said that when a soul reaches this level of awareness, their energy field changes. The aura becomes radiant, magnetic, aligned with the frequency of truth. People feel peace around them without knowing why. Nature responds. Animals are drawn to them. Even the elements seem to bend in cooperation. Such beings become living bridges, points where the veil grows thin for others to remember. The awakening of one consciousness lightens the field for all. Each act of awareness, compassion, and truth sends ripples through the collective veil, weakening its density. This is why spiritual awakening is not a private pursuit, but a planetary one. Every time you choose love over fear, authenticity over illusion, you pierce another layer of shadow in the human grid. Now, as humanity stands at the threshold of a new age, the veil itself is shifting. Solar flares, cosmic alignments, and the rising resonance of Earth are destabilizing the old energetic matrix. Many feel this as anxiety, confusion, or acceleration. A sense that time is collapsing, that something unseen is being revealed. In truth, the veil is thinning. The frequency of the planet is increasing, and with it, the bandwidth of human consciousness expands. Dreams are becoming more vivid, synchronicities more frequent, intuition more precise. The boundary between the physical and the metaphysical is dissolving, and those who are ready will see, not with the eyes, but with the heart. But this thinning brings challenges as well. When illusions fall away, the mind panics, the ego resists. The systems built upon deception, political, financial, even religious, tremble. For to maintain power, one must maintain the veil. Yet no illusion can withstand the light of awareness forever. What we are witnessing in the world now, the chaos, the polarization, the unveiling of secrets, is the veil unraveling from within. Still, this unraveling is not destruction. It is revelation. What has been hidden must come to light before it can heal. And the field of humanity is healing, painfully, beautifully, inevitably. As the veil thins across the collective, each individual is called to face their own internal fog, the private illusions they've mistaken for truth. This is where the journey turns inward, where the cosmic narrative becomes personal. Every emotion suppressed, every belief unquestioned, every attachment clung to. These are the threads that keep the veil intact within you. The world outside mirrors the world within. As the external veil dissolves, the internal begins to tremble. Old patterns resurface, grief, anger, confusion, not as punishment, but as invitations. They ask, can you see me without fear? Can you love me without judgment? Because the veil is not destroyed through resistance, but through compassion. Awareness itself is the solvent. When one chooses to witness their pain instead of becoming it, the energy transforms. Light enters the shadow, the fog clears, and truth reveals itself not as a concept, but as a direct experience, something you are. This is how the veil begins to lift, one heart at a time. Mystics across ages have described this as the second birth, the death of illusion and the rebirth of perception. It is not an event, but a gradual unfolding, a series of realizations so profound that they undo everything you once believed to be solid. The old self dissolves like mist, and what remains is awareness itself, vast, silent, and eternal. This is why enlightenment cannot be taught, only remembered. Every soul carries the memory of truth encoded in its light. The veil does not erase it, it only obscures it. To awaken is to realign with that original frequency, to remember who you have always been beneath the dream. The ancient initiates understood this as a science of resonance. They taught that the human body is not just a vessel of flesh, but a symphony of frequencies, a temple of sacred geometry vibrating within the greater harmony of the cosmos. When the heart and mind synchronize in coherence, the body becomes transparent to higher light. Modern instruments now confirm what sages knew intuitively, that emotions carry measurable frequencies, and the heart emits a magnetic field capable of influencing reality around it. Gratitude, compassion, and joy resonate at higher wavelengths, thinning the veil's density. Fear, shame, and deceit, on the other hand, fortify it. In this way, the veil is self-maintaining. It persists only through our vibration of separation. But there are methods to shift this frequency. Breath is one of the oldest and simplest. Through conscious breathing, slow, rhythmic, intentional, one can harmonize the nervous system and attune to the present moment. The veil, which thrives on distraction and thought, weakens in the stillness of presence. Sound, too, plays a role. Ancient chants, tuning forks, crystal bowls, even the natural resonance of the voice, all carry vibrations capable of aligning energy centers. When used with intention, sound becomes a bridge between worlds, a tuning mechanism that reveals the subtle architecture of reality. Then there is geometry, the invisible language of creation. Meditating upon sacred forms such as the flower of life, the Sri Yantra, or the torus field trains the consciousness to recognize unity patterns within diversity. This recognition is not symbolic, it is experiential. As the mind stabilizes upon these geometries, it begins to perceive the underlying symmetry of all things, dissolving the illusion of separation. And above all, method stands the heart. The heart is not merely an organ, it is a stargate, a point of singularity where the infinite compresses into human experience. To open it fully is to dissolve the veil entirely. This is why masters and mystics alike taught love as the ultimate path, because love is the only frequency high enough to pass through the distortion unscathed. When you love without condition or agenda, your energy expands beyond identity. The veil cannot anchor itself to a heart that sees no enemy. For in love, all division collapses, all opposites reconcile, the illusion of other dissolves, and what remains is wholeness. At this level of awareness, truth is no longer something to be sought. It simply is. The world may still appear as form, but behind every form glows the same light. You begin to see consciousness expressing itself as trees, as rivers, as people, as stars. Every sound becomes sacred. Every face becomes divine. And though the world continues as our psychos, with its chaos, beauty, and contradiction, you walk through it untouched. You no longer react from fear because you no longer believe in separation. You act, speak, and move as a vessel of awareness itself. This is what it means to live beyond the veil, not in denial of reality, but in harmony with its true essence. The sages describe this as living in two worlds at once, one foot in the physical, one in the eternal. You work, laugh, love, create, but you do so consciously, knowing that every experience is a reflection of your inner frequency. Life becomes art, existence becomes prayer, and the more you live from this awareness, the more the veil transforms from a barrier into a canvas. You begin to realize it was never meant to imprison you, but to give you contrast, a backdrop upon which the light of consciousness could discover itself. Without shadow, light could not know its brilliance. Without forgetting, remembrance would hold no meaning. In the end, the veil is the divine paradox, both obstacle and teacher, illusion and revelation. It is the silent guardian of the game of existence, and the moment you see it for what it is, it loses its power, because what you can see, you can transcend. Now imagine, for a moment, that humanity as a whole begins to awaken to this understanding. Billions of souls realizing they are not separate minds trapped in matter, but facets of one cosmic consciousness dreaming itself into form. The wars would end, not through treaties, but through remembrance. The earth would heal, not through control, but through resonance. This collective awakening is not fantasy, it is already unfolding. Every act of awareness accelerates it. Every realization, every moment of compassion sends a pulse through the grid of consciousness, softening the global veil. The chaos we witness is the storm before clarity, the old patterns dissolving as light floods the system. The ancients foresaw this time. They called it the Great Revealing. The apocalypse, from the Greek word apokalypsis, meaning lifting of the veil. It is not the end of the world, but the unveiling of it, the end of illusion and the beginning of truth. And you are here for it, not by coincidence, but by choice. You came to remember, to awaken within the dream, to be the light that pierces the fog for others. You are not small nor powerless. You are a fragment of the infinite, momentarily disguised as a human being. As the veil thins, you will feel it. The quickening of intuition, the synchronicities guiding you, the magnetic pull toward authenticity. Follow it, trust it. These are the breadcrumbs leading you back to source. When fear arises, meet it with awareness. When the world seems uncertain, anchor in stillness. When you forget who you are, close your eyes, breathe and whisper, I am the light behind the veil. Because that's the truth, the one truth that cannot be hidden. The veil does not separate you from truth. It invites you to remember it. It is the reflection through which consciousness rediscovers its own face. And when at last the final layer fades and the light of awareness stands unveiled, you will see what has always been. There was never a barrier, only a doorway, and you were the key all along. Reality will shimmer like a mirage, and you will smile, knowing the secret every mystic has whispered through time. The dream and the dreamer are one. The veil is not between you and truth. You are the truth that has been veiled. And with that remembrance, the illusion ends, not in destruction, but in awakening. Silence fills the space where questions once lived. The heart beats in rhythm with the cosmos, and the eternal observer, the spark of the infinite within you, gazes through human eyes and whispers, I was never lost, only dreaming.